Hi there folks, how you doing? And welcome to another live stream. And in this live stream, we're basically letting the A320 checklist out in the world, and we're going to give it a dry run and give you the URL should you want to have a look and a play with it. Still very much work in progress, but we're going to just see what we can do to get it out there and see who's actually interested in it. Right, okay, so let's crack on. So we are currently at Melbourne. And so the situation is we have the flight deck on the left-hand side there and the checklist to the right-hand side. So basically what this is a web-based checklist where you can work your way down through all the bits. We'll go through this in a minute so you'll see how it all works. You can work your way down through all the points that I've managed to pull together through lots of research, watching lots of videos, reading lots of checklists, and studying a little bit about the A320. And I can't stress enough, and I'll mention it time and time again, it is work in progress, and I'll be updating it as we go or in the future. But let's crack on because it's fairly late in the evening in the UK here and I need to get a bit of a move on. So basically then what we do is work our way down the right hand side there, and it gives us a kind of structured way to get the aircraft into the air, and as any checklist basically does. So, right, let me just check a couple of things here. Yep, so we all seem to be working okay. So we are, as I say, at Melbourne, and you can see I've done some pre-work with the flight planning on the right-hand side there. You can see that I've basically got the departure, and you can actually write in these little squares. But do bear in mind, if you do refresh the page, you will lose anything that you type in. But as I've been doing this, I've not really needed to refresh the page, and it's one of the easiest ways that I could get to actually get the thing done. So transition altitude. So some of the stuff we're putting in here might not be accurate in terms of facts and figures and that kind of stuff, because I'm still a beginner at this really, and I'm still learning how it works. So we'll have a transition altitude of, well, let's call it 5,000. Not sure whether that's right or not, but we'll run with that for now. I've done a little bit of research. So our standard instrument departure is going to be dorsal 1 out of YMML, and our basically we'll need a VOR of 113.2, and we'll pop that in a minute. I've just basically made a note of some of the radio stations, but we'll use the basic radio tower and all that kind of thing from the game. So that'll be fine. And we've got somewhere here to make some notes if you want to. Right, so now we really get into the meat and bones of what we're trying to do here, and to actually get the aircraft lit up and ready to go. So what we're going to do then is work through the checklist and see how we can get this done. Oh, and by the way, so what we're going to do is go through the checklist, and we've already got a flight plan in SimBrief, and we'll bring the SimBrief flight plan into the A320 NX by Fly-by-Wire, which is a marvelous aircraft. I love it to bits, and the way they keep kind of progressing it and improving it, it really is superb. Right, okay, so thrust lever is set to idle. I just need to make sure that I bring that down so that you can see that. Engine master switches. So right, now we need to get into the cockpit and see what's going on here. So engine master switches are set to off. Engine mode selector is set to normal. And of course, when you do this, you can do this all in your own time anyway. But landing lever is set down, and park brake is on. Now we go to the overhead, and we can see that we need to have both our wipers are set off for both the captain and the co-pilot. So we'll get those as off. And the battery power is at, we have voltage anyway. I'm not quite sure these voltages are right, but that's fine. So now when we switch the batteries 1 on and 2 on, so that's the batteries on. So we basically wait for ground power to be available, but that is currently available because we can see that by the avail, and that's shown in the checklist there as well. And so bear with me, I just need to get my headset back on. And so basically we can check that as done, and we switch the external power on. And hopefully we hear a couple of sounds. Yeah. Just not particularly loud. Okay, so now we need to do the APU fire test, which is here. I might not actually have any sound. There we go. Yes, we do have sound. That's good. That's a bit of a relief. So APU fire test is done. Now we can do APU master is on. and working our way down the checklist then. So the APU start is set to on. And when you come to this page, you can do all this as well. So now we need to do basically the lights. So we're going down to the MCDU first of all, and we'll turn up the brightness there so that we can see what we're doing. And while we're down here, we'll change the brightness here on the eCam. That's not necessarily in the order that I've got them on the checklist, but that's okay. So we'll come to that in a minute. So that's eCam upper is done and eCam lower is done. So now we'll go to the primary flight display, and we'll basically turn the brightness up on the PFD and the navigation display as well. And don't worry with all that red at the moment, that'll actually sort itself out once we work our way through the actual checklist. Okay, so now we come over here and we'll turn the lights up here in effect, and the lights on. They going on, and yep, that's fine. And now we'll go to the floodlights as required. So we can basically go to the overhead there, and we can set the overhead integral lights. There we go. And we go down to the radio panel again. So we've done that. Come back here, and we've got the floodlights to do here, and the integral lights, or the integrated lights. Not really sure what that means actually, or what it stands for. So that's done. And so that's our lighting done. So right now, we need to check the parking brake again. We do tend to do some of these things more than once. Flaps are up, check. Speed brake is down, disengaged, retracted. And we go back above again to do the probe window heat. So that's the pitot tube, I believe, and the window heating. And while we're here, we do the nav and logo light is set to on, and the APU bleed is set to on. Okay, moving on down to some more of the overhead left. We need to make sure that the crew oxygen supply is on. And we've got a couple of so the crew oxygen supply was just above there. And we've got a couple of inoperative choices at the moment. And this will be updated as I kind of work my way through this. Now we need to turn on the navigation to make sure that they're tuned into the satellite. So I believe that's what we're doing here. And so we turn on 1, 3, and 2, so we can turn those as done now. Back again to the lights, so we need to just zoom in a bit here. So the strobe light is set to auto. The seatbelt sign is on. The no smoking sign is set to auto. The emergency exit is armed. We now need to do the annunciator light check. So we basically just make sure that, sorry, not that one. Oh yeah, it's that one. So we turn that up just to make sure that all the lights are actually working. So basically the bulbs are working, and we can then bring that back down to bright. Dome lights are set to dim, which is this one. Oh, dome lights, there we go, set to dim. I want to make sure that the emergency exit is on, that's right, yeah. Okay, so at this point we would have a look and say, well, do we need to be looking at having any anti-ice? It's probably unlikely where we're flying from. And the cabin pressure is set to on, or basically not manual. The ditching button is closed, which is this button here. The landing elevation is set to auto. And the aircon is set as required. So because of where we are, we'll have it a bit cooler today. And I'm sure everybody will appreciate that. Okay, moving on then. So we want to make sure that the packs are on. The packs are on, basically not dark. And we can go down to the electrical screen here. Let me just go here and we'll look down, zoom in, and where are we? Electrical there. And we can see that the batteries are off, but is it charging? Seems to be charging at 50. Seems to be lower there for some reason. I'm not sure this is right, but anyway, we'll put that down as a check. So we now go back to the overhead, and we have all the fuel pumps are on. Fuel pumps are on. Now we can do the fire test in engine 1. And now engine 2. done. And now we just check the electric panel is all as expected, and we check that the ventilation panel is as expected, and there are basically no white lights shown. We've got a couple of alarms still or faults, but they'll correct themselves if we work our way through. Now we can check the what is this one here actually? Or is it this one? There we go. So we can check the doors just to make sure everything is good there. Yeah, everything's good there. The hydraulics doesn't work at the moment, and we can check the basically the engine oil to see where we are there. So we got plenty of oil and no PSI on the oil yet because we haven't started the engines. And now we can switch to flight controls, and we'll do a check to make sure that we've got full deflection on all the controls and the rudder as well. So that's done. Right, now we go up to the basically the EFIS, and we need to set the barometric pressure. Do we want HPA or inches? So we're going to go HPA, and we can check that is the right QNH by pressing B on the keyboard, and we can check the flight director to make sure that we have flight directors on both. Sorry, we need to switch on is the next one. So switched on flight directors on both, and then we can check that we have climb and nav and 1FD2. So that means that both the flight directors are on. So that's check. And the next thing, which is really important that we need to do, is all important really, is make sure we've got constraints on, and that means that when we're flying out on departure, if there's any height constraints and that kind of thing, we will actually see them. Okay, so now we need to go to the navigation display and set arc. So that's that button there, and we want it set at 10 nautical miles. That's those two items on the checklist there. VOR ADF will set in a moment once we've done that. Landing system is set to off. So when we check the flight control unit, we want to make sure that we have dash dot, and that basically means that the computer is working in manage mode, and we want to check that we have hundreds or thousands. Here we'll stick with thousands, and our initial stop height, which is going to be 5,000 feet, I believe. So now, as I say, some of this, I'm not really doing the technical departures and approaches. This is just really about the checklist at the moment. So some of this is not going to be absolutely spot on. So we need to just check that the PFD is set. And yes, we've got the QNH there. We've got the climb nav. Our initial stop height is 5,000 feet. And we're still waiting for the nav to come alive. So that will come alive shortly. Okay, we need to go to the middle console now, and we need to bring to life our basically our backup instruments here, and hopefully we don't ever need them. And we can check that basically we are set 1013, and let's just go over to the, and they're both reading the initial height, which is about 380 feet it looks like for here at Melbourne. Okay, so standby is checked, standby altimeter is checked, artificial horizon is checked, and clock should we wish to do so. And we can make sure that the anti-skid system is set on. And now we need to go to the audio panel, which is basically here. And in fact, let's just go here. And we need to make sure it's initialized, so it is actually switched on. We've got transmit on VHF1, and frequencies are set. So we'll do that in a minute. So let's do that now. So we're going to need Melbourne ATIS. So we'll come back to that in a minute when we're ready to do that. So interphone should be interphone should be set, I believe. We won't worry about that for a minute. And the public address. And while we're here, we need to set the weather mode to weather, which is here. So we'll set that there. to weather, which is WX, and we'll then move on to the centralized engine monitor again. So we want to make sure that we're still set to basically get rid of that. Norm. Check the engine oil once more, just to make sure there's nothing untoward there. So we need to check engines again, and everything is still fine because we will be starting shortly. Hydraulics check and status check. So if we check status, and everything is normal, which is what we're expecting. Okay, so thrust levers are set idle. So a lot of this we do a couple of times just to make sure that everything is done as expected. And engine master switches are all off, so check, because I guess it's quite easy to knock these things. So, and engine selectors are set to norm. Spoilers are retracted still and disarmed, and flaps are up. Parking brake is set on, as we know, and ATC ready to go. Transponder is set standby and standby on the TCAS. So now while we're here, we do the weather system set to SYS1. Okay, so now we're going to go to the basically the MCDU, and we'll just double check that we have the brightness set. So that's good. And what we'll do is go to ATSU, AOC, and init, and we need to request the data. Now this should be my flight plan from SimBrief. So that's done, init request. So we move on, and we need to check the route. Bear with me. Sorry, we need to next press, getting ahead of myself here, init and init request. Right, okay, so what that does is to bring in the detail of the flight plan. If you don't do that last bit, you don't get the rest of the detail. You just basically get the departure and arrival. Okay, so what we need to do now, sorry, I do need to take out some of that you can see there, the flight planning bit. Need to make a note there. Okay. So now what we can do is just basically check the route. So we're going to take off from Melbourne, which is the YMML, and we now need to just basically scroll through the route and just to make sure that we actually end up at Sydney. So that's good. And we see the distance is about 384, I think that's nautical miles. So we've checked the route and we've checked the flight distance. So we know that it's, sounds about right. Okay, so we have some details here that I've copied across from my flight sim, from my SimBrief flight plan. And now because we've got this data, we can go to do basically the performance weight and balance. So we go to the MCDU again, we go to ATSU, AOC menu, and if I'm doing this all too fast, of course, you can follow along at another time. So basically we can request the fuel, and now what we need to do is to basically do the weight and balance. So we go to the weight and balance symbol up here, and let's just check what we've got. So it's saying on my flight plan that we need 7.5, and here the fuel is shown as 9.5. So what we need to do with the fuel is basically adjust this until we get roughly 7.5. There's 7.431, so that will be fine. Now, with the payload, we've got 22.6, which seems like quite a lot, actually. Wow, that is quite a lot. Okay, right, so half of that is 11.3. So what we're going to do is distribute the weight between the forward and the aft or rear baggage. So to do that, we select these and delete, delete. And in this one, we do 11. 600. So for some reason my keyboard doesn't work when I fill this bit in. It must be an error or something. So now we copy that because we're going to put that in the rear baggage compartment, and we're going to delete what's in economy class. Right, so now if we, we've still got too much. Why is that? So it should be 11.3 and 11.3 in there. Okay, so these are just bits and pieces that have come off the temporary flight plan. So I'll go through that another time so that we have that. And we need to, so we've got the weight and balance, you know, it's within the boundaries, which is good. And we need to just have a note of this 22.2, which is the Mach or the center of gravity. Okay, so make a note of that. And so that's good. And now we can go back and scroll down the checklist, and we can tick off that we've done the forward fuel, aft or rear fuel, weight balance sliders set, forward baggage, rear baggage, and weight and balance sliders are set. Right, next thing we need to do is to go to the init, and we need to do page right, and all of this is on the checklist. So this is why this checklist is good, because you can follow through the whole thing, and it's fairly, once you've done it a couple of times, it's quite straightforward. So, right, so let's call in our zero fuel weight. So we click it once and you see it comes up down here, and we can check that we've got 22.2, and we can then click it again and that will insert it. We do the same thing with fuel and block confirm. So that's basically the weight and balance, which we can put in there just because we can. 22.2, and we'll come up to this in a minute, because these are our speeds that we need to do. Right, okay, so now, so we've done that, and we've got the takeoff weight, which is 70.8, which is slightly different to the actual flight plan, but that's just one of those things. So now we can, our next bit is to go to performance, and what we would do, actually, I'm not doing that tonight, is we can actually go and get the numbers and do the performance charts from an online resource, but we'll skip through that because we can call it in from the MCDU. And right, so we'll update the performance. So we need to press performance, and what we do here, we're going to have a flaps 1 takeoff. So we enter 1 and put that into flaps. And now to get this next bit, we do / and up 1.0, and then we press that again. And the / means it will just push it forwards into this bit. The flex temp is going to be 65, so we can pop that in there as well. And now what we can do is create, by clicking here twice, the speeds. The computer will work out speeds for us, which is absolutely amazing. Okay, moving on then. And so now what we want to do is to basically tune in to the ATIS. And so we'll do that now. So we need to go to the radio and tune to the ATIS, which is 11800.
Melbourne Airport information India 2200 Zulu. Wincom.
So it's information Zulu.
6. Sky condition. Few clouds at 1,000 feet, few clouds at 4,100 feet, few clouds at 12,000 feet. Temperature 11. Dew point 10. QNH 29.91. ILS Yankee runway 16 in use. Landing and departing runway 16. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have India. Melbourne Airport information India 2200 Zulu.
Right, so it's
Wincom.
India.
Visibility 6. Sky condition. Few clouds at 1,000 feet, few clouds at 4,100 feet, few clouds at 12,000 feet. Temperature, 11. Dew point, 10. QNH 29er decimal 91. ILS Yankee runway 16 in use. Landing and departing runway 16. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have India. Melbourne Airport information India 2200 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 6. Sky condition, few clouds at 1,000 feet, few clouds at 4,100 feet, a few clouds at 12,000 feet.
Okay, so the wind's calm actually. So I was listening for that and I couldn't get the wind direction. So the wind is calm and the runway is 16 out. Okay, so what we can do, we'll just get rid of that for a moment. Go away. Why won't that disappear? Oh, there we go. Right, okay. I think he's gonna keep going, isn't he? So let's go to ground services just to keep him quiet for a minute. Okay, right, so where are we on the checklist then? So now what we need to do, now we have this information, is to set the altimeter. So we're going to just go back to there, just to say that it's 1013, so that's fine. So that's set. And so I think what we would do now is basically make our call to Melbourne Centre. So we can do that to request our clearance. So what I'm going to do is back to clearance, and we've got ATIS and request IFR clearance.
Melbourne ground BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 IFR to Sydney, ready to copy. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 is cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 16 climb and maintain 5,000 feet. Departure frequency is 129er decimal 4 squawk 4422.
Okay, so we'll acknowledge that. So we've got a couple of bits of information there. And first of all, 5,000 feet, which we know now, and we need to pop into our transponder 4422. There we go, let's just check that. Oh. There we go. Oh, let's turn these floodlights on as well. Okay. Right, so that's that done. Standby instruments we'll check. Radios are set. And we'll just check once more. Anti-skid is on. Auto brakes are set max. Flaps set 1. And speed brake is armed. Flight controls check again. Everything as expected. Pitch trim set. So this is where we put in our up 1. And so we bring that back so that we've got our up 1 in line there. That's done. Rudder trim check. So we need to just make sure that that's reset. Autopilot is managed and not on. Auto thrust will come on, or Arthur as I call it, will come on once we hit the right height. Flight directors checked are on. ILS is off. Anti-ice is required. FMC cleanup. So we just basically go down here, and the next bit we're going to need is the flight plan. So we'll make sure that's done. And we would now ask for the chocks to be removed. And we would, I believe, ping the cabin crew. Okay, so in the overhead then, so we would now external power is off. Yeah, so what we should have done actually is asked to start our engines, but that's fine. Beacon is on, trying to go too fast, you see. Beacon is on, external power off. We would check that the engine area is clear, and we would then go to engine mode on and engine master on. Okay, so we look out the window here because we are firing up the engines, so we need to just basically make sure that we are aware what's happening around us, particularly with the people outside and all those sorts of things. Okay, so we can see that basically, go to the eCam pages, that we have an increase in N2 and N1 will shortly start to rise. So while that's happening, we can just have a little look around us. So we're going to get a pushback. Let's just have a little look. Yeah, okay. So engine 1 is in, so okay, so we are now clear to, we can say engine 2 is on, and if we click engines, we can see that the oil pressure has come up as well. So engine 2, we can do master switch on as well. Oh, sorry, engine 1 master switch on. Right, so we can see now that we're increasing on N2 and M1. Let's open charts. I just need to see where we actually are. So taxi and right, okay, so goodness knows how I'm going to get to the actual runway from here, because I haven't done that before, so that should be quite funny. We could actually be taken off on the wrong runway. Right, okay, so engine temperatures are good. Engine mode we can set back to normal. Probes and window heat is on, so let's just check again. Yes. We can now turn off the APU bleed. And anti-ice in the engine as required, and APU master goes off. All right, so now we go back to our, we won't request a taxi just yet, because I just need to have a look where we're going to taxi to. So let me just make a sorry, bear with me. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is basically have a look and see where the runway actually is. Give me just a couple of minutes. I'll be right back, and let me just have a little look. Okay, so back with you now. What I can do is show you basically what I was looking at, and because I wasn't sure where I was on the airport. So, okay, so I'm parked there, and I'm going to need to taxi up here to depart on 16. So it's quite a long taxi, and I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that. So what we haven't done is too many buttons to press. What we need to do is go back here on our flight plan, go to YMML, departure, and choose 16, and we're going to take the dorsal one and insert that. Okay, so we can see basically what we're going to do there. So that's good. And then the other thing that we haven't done is set the VOR 113.2. So what we need to do is go into RadNav, and we can see that the VOR's not set, I think. So we need to do that as 13.2. Okay. There we go. Not sure why we've got that. Okay, flight plan. Takeoff data. Okay, so as you can see, there's a couple of gaps, but in essence, it's close. Right, so we've done that. Let's just get ourselves back sorted again. And what we're going to do now is basically we are going to request pushback, request taxi, and okay. What we can do is come back to the checklist. Yeah, so what we didn't do was request the pushback. It's on the checklist, I just didn't do it. So what we're going to do is tune in to ACT, ground services, and request pushback.
Melbourne ground BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 requesting pushback. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 pushback request accepted.
So basically we should have been starting our engine as we were being pushed back. So it's not too bad. So look, what you must remember to do, because honestly, the checklist does work, but you need to remember to do things. Okay, so pushback steer to the right, I think. I always get a bit confused with this.
7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 requesting pushback to steer the aircraft to the right. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055, your request has been transmitted to the operator.
Okay, so request a stop there.
Melbourne ground BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 requesting the end of pushback. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 request to end pushback received.
Okay, so we go back to clearance. And we've got like a little scratch pad here to get our request taxi IFR.
Melbourne ground BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 with India ready to taxi IFR. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 taxi to and hold short of runway 16 via taxiway Alpha Charlie Alpha Bravo cross runway 27 Alpha. Contact tower on 120.5 when ready.
Okay, so basically we're going to taxi via Alpha, cross runway 27 to Alpha. So it's basically staying on Alpha. So we can acknowledge a taxi clearance.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha
Feet on the brakes.
Did you copy?
Yes, we did copy.
Taxiing hold short runway 16
So tune Melbourne Tower.
Alpha Charlie Alpha Bravo cross runway 27 Alpha.
So we need to,
Bravo
do we need
Alpha
to tell?
7055.
Brakes are on. Nose lights are on. Taxi. Parking brake is off, as we know now. Brakes, and I need to check this because yesterday when I was doing this, I ended up basically burning the brakes. So that was a bit of bad news. So brakes, taxi, and flight controls check once more. Yeah, we can see the dot moving around in the right. Heading is set dash dot dash dot. Weather radar is on set. Engine instruments are checked. Yep, all good. Nav instruments. Yep. And That's good. Autopilot we don't need. Cabin is checked. Brakes are on. Brake temperatures are. Let me just have a look at this, say, because I did get caught out with this yesterday. So what we'll do, we'll go to wheels, and we can check the brake temperatures. So everything's good. So this is good. And brake fan is. Now, what I did yesterday is I turned that off, but I'm not going to do that at the moment because I think that was too early, and it really did cause me some problems when I was testing this. So, right, okay. So what we're going to do now is taxi our way. Confirm brakes are off. Brakes are off, and here we go. And basically we are going to be following down here, I believe. I'm not sure this is right, but anyway, we'll... So just to let you know what I'm actually following is that. So remember to keep looking at the screen. So you can see on Navigraph, which is great. I mean, I strongly recommend you get Navigraph if you're getting into doing this, because it's so useful once you can figure out how it all works and bring it all together. But so we now need to move over to, I believe, to make sure we're on Alpha. So to do that, we'll take a left here. I'm not sure this is right. I think I'm actually on one of the roadways, but anyway. I think this should take us up to some proper yellow lines. And right, so does it look right? I'm not sure it does. Okay. I think we should actually be on the bit just over. Oh no, that's right, Alpha, I think. Okay, we'll stick with it and continue. So anyway, so that's basically, we got lost a couple of bits there doing the checklist, but we've, you know, it gives you a kind of structured approach to get through from that initial start up to get everything working. And okay. So that's right, there we go. And then we're down onto, we follow this all the way down. So we have quite a bit of a taxi run to do, but that's okay. So yeah, so basically there'll be a link once this is done down in the description for you to follow and have a go with the checklist if you're interested. And there's a form at the bottom of the checklist for you to fill in if you think something can be done a bit different. So please do that, have a go. And it's kind of changing all the time really, so you just have to bear with it if you come back and it's slightly different to what you saw the last time. We will pick up the pace just a little bit here. Right, so coming up then, we can do basically some of these bits and pieces that we're waiting to do. So we can go above and we'll have the landing lights on. Runway turn light is on. Back into the cockpit just to make sure we're going straight still. takeoff config we'll check on the screen by pressing takeoff config, and oh, back in the, there we go. It looks like we've not got the weather. Don't know what that was. Okay, so we've been given clearance to cross the runway. Always good to have a look anyway. And we're well on our way now. So to get down to runway 16 left. So back with the checklist now then. So we've takeoff config, we've checked, takeoff memo. We should be all green. I'm going to just investigate that. What that is there. Pred WS off. I don't actually know what that means. So that's a bit of a dilemma. Okay, so we are coming up to our hold short now. So just ease off on the throttle and come round. I'm sure we should have a hold short here somewhere. It doesn't look like it, does it? Okay, it's the stop bars here, I guess. Interesting. Okay, so we'll hold here. Brakes are on, and so we want to just check that memo. We've got. I don't know what that is, so we're going to go without checking that today because I just don't know. Right. Okay, so we're gonna. We'll check the train radar is on, because we have got some train coming up on this one, and bird strike we would have good look for birds and check with ground that there's basically no problems with that at all. So right, okay, we can get rid of that one now, and basically what we're going to do here is depart on 16, and we're going to go for 2.5 miles and then turn towards Albach at 5,000 feet. So we need to climb up to 5,000 feet. So we got into the autopilot straight as soon as we can. And then we're going to go to Chimu, I believe. Is it Albach? Horsch, Albach, and then straight out to Chimu. So we're 5,000 feet after the climax. That's good. Right, okay, that's a departure brief. That's good enough for us today. So, right, last minute checks before we go then. So let's just get this out of the way. Right, so packs are off so that we've got the extra power for takeoff should we need it. Just check strobe lights are on. Nose light to takeoff. We go down here and we set the transponder to on, and Tara for the transponder, and rudder trim press reset just to be sure. Quick look outside. And now we need to request our departure clearance. So request takeoff. Here we go.
Melbourne Tower, BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055, ready for IFR departure runway 16. BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055, cleared for takeoff runway 16.
Okay, acknowledge the takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff runway 16, BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055.
All right, so we'll have a check on finals. And line up. Okay, and hold there on the brakes. So back with the checklist then, the stick will be forwards and we'll release that as we approach 100 knots. We'll increase the thrust to 40%. Thrust decreased to 40%, monitoring the engines, all looks good. Thrust to flex toga. Start the chrono, feet off the brakes. Okay, 100 knots. 120. Rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Touch the brakes. Flaps up.
BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055, contact Melbourne departure on 129.4.
And autopilot. And thrust to climb.
BA 7055, Bravo
Okay, so
Alpha
we're gonna
7055,
climb to-
did you hear my last transmission?
Yes, I did. We acknowledge the handoff.
129.4, BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055.
Okay, and we now need to be climbing to 10,000 feet. So 10,000 feet is set as the new target. I'm going to increase the climb rate just a bit. So we're at 2.4. Ah, yeah, okay, so there we go. So hopefully it's doing just a tight turn here, just arc in that corner, because it wouldn't do that tighter turn there. Okay, so we are climbing at basically 12.5 degrees. Thrust is set to climb, so we're still doing our checklist here. Speed brakes are retracted and down. Flaps should be clean, which they are. So it looks like we're turning nicely, and we've got a constraint of 10,000 feet coming up, and we're currently 7,000 feet, so that should be fine by the time we get to Chimu. Right, landing gear is up. Another check, flaps are up. Weather radar we would set to tilt down if it would allow us to, and we'll just check that the autopilot is on. Autopilot is on. Speed is basically 250 knots or less. So now we want to just check that the auto brakes are off and yep, everything's worked as expected there. And we'll just check in with the radio just to see if there's anything else we have to do. To Melbourne departure. What we will do is just open up the range just a bit, and I'll go back to my flight plan over here. So by dorsal then, dorsal 1, we should be 11,200 feet. So we can do that. So 11,200 feet is set. And we can initiate that. So all going well so far. Right, back to the checklist then. And right, so we are APU master switch should be off, which it is. Nose light can come down to off. Runway turn-in lights are off, and packs 1 and 2 can go on for our passengers' comfort. And we would just check the outside air temperature to decide whether we need to have anti-ice or not. Right, back in the cockpit to look out the window. Okay, let's check the height. So we're heading to 11,200. Our constraint is 10,000. So above 10,000 we can go standard pressure. I think that's right here, but I'll get better at that. So right, so back on the checklist then, we've got barometer is set to standard, and we can release the crew. I'm pressing these buttons, but I have no idea which one to press. On the navigation display we go to 40. Speed check below 250 knots. Well, we are actually over that. Oh, that's fine because we're above 10,000 feet now. And we are reading a max speed at this height. And yeah, and landing lights are off now, so we're above 10,000 feet. Back above. And so they can come off and be retracted as well. Anti-ice is required, and we can, seat belts can come off, and the ND range above 10,000 feet as we are is set to 160 or 80-160, and that's personal choice. Right, go back to the flight plan. And so we are basically, we've passed Sally and we're on our way to dorsal. So by the time we get to Sally to dorsal 1, we need to be 20,600 feet. So we need to change that back to thousands. And let's just check that's initiated. Yep. So we'll continue that climb. We probably should have a little bit of a hurry up for that as well. we go. Right, okay, let's get back into the seat, and our top of the climb is going to be 20 miles after Ebony. So we can just zoom in. Should really have a look at the radio. Tune Melbourne Centre, see what they've got to say.
Melbourne Centre BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 is at 13,200 feet, descending 5,000 feet. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 Melbourne Centre, continue to Dussel as planned. QNH 29.88.
Right, so we've got a new we're standard, so that's not right. Something's wrong there. It's got us as descending. Oh dear, that's not quite right, is it? So, okay. Let's just bring the arc forward a bit. And we can see, right, so Ebony.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055, please expedite your descent to 5,000 feet.
I think what we need to do here is request our
Melbourne
IFR
Centre
clearance
BA
as filed to Sydney,
7055 Bravo
and that'll
Alpha
make sense.
7055 would like to change destination to Sydney. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 is cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 4422. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 4422. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055
so that's good.
readback correct. Radar contact flight level 185. Continue to HORSH turning in following heading 205, descend and maintain 11,000 feet.
Why? My flight plan doesn't say that. Can't imagine why we got. No, we're going to continue with our flight. So we're going to request.
BA 7055
Basically,
Bravo Alpha
10,000 feet more.
7055, did you copy?
So we acknowledge that.
Continue to
And
HORSH
then-
turning in following heading
and
205, descend and maintain 11,000 feet. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055. BA 7055 Bravo
Right,
Alpha
so when we get a
7055
chance.
contact Melbourne Centre on 125.2. 125.2 BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
Okay, tune Melbourne and contact Melbourne. This is a bit tedious, but it's a bit easier than doing the proper radio at the moment, because there's just too much to learn with the actual getting the aircraft to work.
Melbourne Centre BA
Right, we'll get
7055
outside the
Bravo
aircraft in a
Alpha
minute. We just need to
7055
get
is out of
this
flight level 205
altitude
for
change.
11,000 feet. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 Melbourne Centre, continue to Ebony as planned. Melbourne Centre
So
BA
request the
7055
height
Bravo Alpha 7055.
to
Request
30,000.
flight level 210. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 climb and maintain flight level 210.
Just doesn't make sense.
Climb and maintain flight level 210 BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
Right, well, we are climbing as per the Simbrief flight plan. So we need to go to another 10,000 feet. Need to change that actually. Right, let's get this right. So thousands and up to 30,000 feet. There we go. And we'll continue that climb.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055, please expedite your climb to flight level 210.
So by our top of the climb is basically 20 miles past Ebony, and we should be at 34 by then, and we should, top of descent is a few miles past Culling. But we might descend a bit earlier than that just to make sure we're underway.
BA 7055 Bravo
Right,
Alpha
okay, I will
7055,
be
you are
back with you shortly.
1,400 feet above your assigned altitude. Descend and maintain flight level 210.
All right, so I'll be back with you very shortly. I'm just going to have a coffee or make a coffee, and then we can start talking about the approach and descent into Sydney. Never done that before, so I don't know quite what to expect. And we've got the data bar above now, so you can see how long we've got to go. And we've got much to talk about. And I'll be back with you in about 5 minutes or so. In the meantime, enjoy the music. well and truly in the cruise now. We're going to stay at 30,000 feet. My flight plan says that by now, so we are in between Aaron and NORAP, November Oscar, November Uniform Papa. We should be at 35,000 feet, but I think we're going to stay here, even though at the moment it basically, looking at the way the aircraft's moving around, there's a bit of turbulence there, but we'll stick with this for the sake of our flight anyway. Right, so what we're going to do is start doing some of the checks in. So we'll pull up, just turn down the music just a little bit there. Okay, so I'm just going to change the zoom. So at Cullen then, we need to top of descent, we need to be coming down to 19,500 feet by Rivet. So that shouldn't be too bad. So the distance between Cullen and Rivet is I think about 55 miles. All right, so let's do some of our checks then that we would be expecting to do in the cruise. So let's have a look at the engines just to see if everything's running as expected there. Nothing untoward there. And we need to put up the engine. PSIs are good. And we've still got plenty of oil, so that's good. So we can tick off the engine check. Comms check, we should check in. I'm sure we've missed something because I've turned them down so they're not annoying. Tune Melbourne Centre. Retry with last flight plan.
Melbourne Center, BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055, 15 miles northeast of Yankee Tango Uniform. Request IFR to Sydney, ready to copy. BA 7055, Bravo Alpha 7055 is cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 422.
Okay, so we're still on the same squawks, that's good. And so we're checked in on the comms. Let's just check everything's all good with the autopilot. Dash dot, so we're all managed. Autopilot is on. Auto throttle is on. Let's just acknowledge that transmission.
7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 4422. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055, read that correct. Radar contact flight level 300. Continue to HORSH turning and following heading 225 descent and maintain flight level 190.
So our clearance is different to what I was expecting. Let's just check that. And I don't really have that in, so but what we will do is start descending to 19.3. As the flight plan says. And descend. So this is top of the climb, so we'll go idle here. I think.
Did you hear my last transmission?
Yep, so let's just acknowledge that.
Continue to HORSH turning
Done.
and following heading 225 descend and maintain flight level 190 BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
Right, fuel is checked. Navigation, we need to check the accuracy of the navigation. So basically we hit program for that, and we check that the accuracy is high, and we're basically within 0.07 of a nautical mile, so that's accurate enough for us. And the cabin temperatures are set, so we'll have it just a little bit warmer. So how's that? Okay, so now what we need to do is to go back to the MCDU, and MCDU, ATSU, AOC menu, and we need to get a weather request for Sydney and send that, and shortly we'll see a company message showing up here. There you go, company message now showing up. So we go back to the AOC menu and received messages and get the METAR. And what we'll do is we'll print that as well. Let's just see if that's printing. Oh, there we go. And when that's done, we'll pop that there. Jolly good. So basically then at Sydney, we can expect drizzle. Oh, this is not good. Don't normally land in the rain. Okay, so the QNH is 1014. Temperature is 20 degrees. Wind we can expect 2204 knots. And we now need to contact Melbourne Centre and request the last flight plan again. I don't know why that doesn't work. Maybe I'm doing something wrong there.
05520 miles east of Yankee Tango Mike Uniform. Request IFR to Sydney, ready to copy. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 is cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 4422. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 4422. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 read that correct. Radar contact flight level 225. Continue to HORSH turning and following heading 220 descend and maintain 13,000 feet. Continue to HORSH turning and following heading 220 descend and maintain 13,000 feet. VA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
Yeah, 13,050 feet is what I see on the flight plan. So we'll continue down to there, back to thousands, 13, back to hundreds, and 500, and pull the descent down. And yeah, so we'll continue down to that. So that's good. Right, okay, so my plan says that, and it may have changed because of the weather, but we're not going to get that technical with it today. Is to expect runway 25. So what we now need to do is to go back into the MCDU, and well, basically let me just have a look here. So approach, Y25, so we'll do the ILS approach for that. Let's just have a look what that looks like. Okay, and the arrival for well, let's have a look. So we'll go back into the MCDU, we'll go to the flight plan, and we can go down to here, Sydney, and select the arrival, and we're going to come in ILS 25, and we can do no star, I think, no standard arrival. I'm just looking at the approach plates here to try and figure out what the best way to do this is. ILS. Right, okay. So right, I think we'll do the no star and see what that does. Interesting. Okay, so what we can do is come back up to the display and let's just bring that back now to 160. It looks horrifically close at the moment, and so that's fine. We're descending quite well to 13, and so at rivet 3 we need to be 9,300. Okay, that's fine. Good. Right, let's figure this out. So we've done the plate transition altitude is going to be should we call it 5,000? Need to figure all this stuff out. The approach is, let's go back to the flight plan. The jelly approach. Jelly approach is basically what we're doing, so we'll just make a note of that because it's just handy to have there. VOR
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055. Please expedite your descent to 13,000 feet.
Sydney VOR, which is 121. So if we go to the RadNav and we can tune 121 112.1. Okay. And we've got the landing system frequency there, and we could tune the ISW in here. So let's see if we can do that. So ISW is the ADF. I think we can put that in there. Not in database. 9.7, should we try that? Okay, that's fine. So now if we go back up to the top, so we need to tune VOR and ADF. Okay, so we've got about 101 nautical miles to go. Showing down there. And so that's good. So that's the VOR's done. And now we just need to get the missed approach information. ILS missed approach is 230 feet, I think. So what we now need to do is go back to the this one, and we need performance. The next phase. So we need to put in the weather details. So 1014 goes in there. Let's just go back here, and we'll bring us down to 11,000 feet. And pull that down, make sure we're still descending. Yep, that's good. Back to the MCDU. Temperature we have at 20. And the winds are 220/4. So we're coming in at 25, so we can expect a slight left crosswind. The missed approach is 230. Okay, that's good. And then we can next phase. So basically we didn't set this, so we should set that 500. So when I say that, the throttle reduction and the missed approach, so we then this one, sorry, I'm just reading this as trying to make sense of it. So hear me.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 IFR flight plan is cancelled. Radar service terminated. Squawk 7000. Maintain VFR. Frequency change approved.
Right, we need to get our IFR plan back. Retry with last IFR plan.
Melbourne Center BA
It looks like we've got some
7055
weather coming up.
Bravo Alpha 7055
have a
12
look.
miles south of Yankee Charlie Romeo Lima. Request IFR to Sydney, ready to copy.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 is cleared to Sydney Airport as filed. Squawk 4422. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055, please acknowledge.
Continue straight out on 242. And then basically we'll get vectors from there. So
BA
we'll see.
7055 Bravo Alpha 7055 cleared to Sydney
Right, back to
Airport
the
as
checklist
filed.
then.
Squawk
Transition altitude
4422.
is 5,000 feet.
BA 7055 Bravo
Jelly.
Alpha 7055, read that correct. Radar contact 11,000 feet. QNH
Missed
2
approach
niner
to
decimal
230.
niner 2 continue to HORSH turning and following heading 220 descend
Go
and
around
maintain
altitude.
11,000 feet.
Yep. So radios we'll use the system for, and that's the approach briefed. Okay, so
Continue to
Busy,
HORSH
busy.
turning and following heading
Then we need to
climb and maintain
set the
11,000 feet. BA
TCAS.
7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
I think what have we missed here?
BA
Should be
7055
on there.
Bravo Alpha 7055, contact Melbourne Center on 129er decimal 8.
TCAS should be set to below. Altimeter is set, we've done that. Radio is set, we're talking to that. We check the ATIS and anti-ice as required. Okay, so the next bit is to prepare for the approach, which we've done all as good as we can. We've selected the star, standard arrival. And the radio nav, we've set the VORs in, and we can check actually that we are getting a reading from the VOR. So the Sydney VOR is telling us we've got 82 miles to run. Let's have a look out the window for a minute. Right, so next point we need to be, right, so we've dropped our speed, so we need to pull back up to manage climb. Never get that bit right. Okay, that's good. It's slightly annoying having to
Melbourne
keep
Center
pressing that like that. So,
Bravo Alpha 705514 miles north of Yankee Golf Lima Bravo.
so what we're going to do, so as not to make our day any worse, is change to few clouds. Okay. I'm just not experienced enough to bring this down in the weather. So where are we? Let's check where we are. We're between Cullen and Rivet.
Squawk 4422.
And
7055 Bravo Alpha 7055, read that correct. Radar contact 10,700 feet. QNH 29.9 to continue to HORSH turning and following heading 220 climb and maintain 11,000 feet.
okay, so we're not going to climb.
Continue to HORSH turning and following heading 220 climb and maintain 11,000 feet. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
So it looks like we're going to go out over probably Sydney Harbour and then back in. Right, okay, back to the checklist then. Altimeter is set, descent rate is so we're at 10,000, so we're not descending, that's fine. What we can have is a little bit of music on. And just enjoy the scenery for a bit, because after all that's what this is all about. So we're fast approaching Sydney. We have Wollongong, which is just going to be passing to our right. So I'm going to bring us down to 9,000 shortly. But we do have some terrain coming up, so I'm not quite sure what that height is. So when we get to Rivet 3, Rivet 3 approach, when we get to Bygem, let's have a look, we've got to zoom in and see what's going on there. Yeah, I can't quite see what that is, but we'll descend to 9,000 at Rivet. just going to go back to the checklist and see what we need to do. So descent rate is good, speed is managed, altimeter set, descent rate is speed, nav accuracy we should check. That's under program. Yep, still high accuracy. Barometer we know is right. So getting ready to descend below 10,000 then. So let's bring ourselves, where are we? No, we'll stay where we are at the moment.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha, 7055 you are 45 miles southwest. Maintain present heading and altitude, expect vectors, ILS runway, tree 4 left approach.
Okay, fast approaching then, so it's going to get quite busy in a minute, and we need to come down to, I think, very soon. We can descend to about 5,000 will be our next, and then as we turn for jelly, which is shown here. There, we can probably bring it down to 4, then 3. So let's request another runway rather than just snowballing in.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha, 7055 Roger. BA 7055 Bravo Alpha, 7055 please acknowledge.
Please stand by BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha, 7055 Roger.
So below 10,000 feet, we need to go.
Bravo Alpha 7055. Did you copy?
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect vectors ILS runway 34 left approach BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055. Contact approach on 128.3.
Decimal tree BA 7055 Bravo Alpha 7055.
Okay, so descending reasonably well. Probably a bit too low. Hey, that's right. Oh look, there's another airfield down there. It's cool. Right, okay. So, back in the checklist then. ND temperature is set, below radio is set. We need to do fasten seatbelts. Fasten seatbelts. Landing lights are on. Speed check 250 knots or less than 250 knots. Check. Engine mode set to normal. Yep, set to normal. Okay, so 250 knots descent rate, check. ND range 10 miles. Probably 20 actually, because we're going to do the loop. So we've got some way to go, so we definitely descended too early. Not really liking the look of some of this mountainous range. Okay, so cabin crew 10 minutes. I've got to work these buttons out as to what they actually are. Let's go back to some music just for a moment while I figure out the approach. Right, so fast approaching to Sydney then. we haven't got time to check the ATIS again, which we would try to normally do. Barometer set, APU set as required. And so just so that you know, I'm going down the checklist, which is the whole point of this flight. So now we want air brakes. Or spoilers, even. Armed. Up. Air brakes set to low medium. Or sorry, not air brakes, auto brakes. Low medium. Flaps as required, so we are below flaps, so we can bring one stage of flap down. We can arm the ILS. Up we go, and we, in terms of lights, we now turn the taxi lights to takeoff, and runway turn lights are on, and localizer is on. This is good. This is a reasonably well organized approach. So basically out past Sydney, and then we'll do a 90-degree turn and come back in, I guess, is that over the bay? So we'll be coming in on 25, and if I just show you Sky Demon Navigraph. So basically we'll be coming in on 25, and I'm hoping to stop by Charlie or Bravo. That might be a bit bold, and then I can taxi back over to the domestic terminal. So that's the plan. Right, let's have a look. Basically on the, are we on the 10-mile approach yet? Not far from it. So 11 nautical miles to run. So cabin check, go around altitude, we know we're going to go straight ahead. Speed check 220, confirm. Autopilot is on, and then once we make this turn, we'll arm the approach. So we need to come down to 4,000 now. we can adjust this now to show you what we're doing. So we're going to come down to 3,000 feet here. Cloud. So we're 3,000 feet, probably 10 miles before we need to be. Right, autopilot is on. Now we can set the approach. Brake set medium, looking for the glide slope. Missed approach is 230. Auto throttle's on. Looks like we're close to picking up the glide slope. Flaps check. Coming up to glide slope captured. So we should get that. So we've got a bit more of a turn to do. And it looks like it's coming in to be caught. I'll take you into the cockpit. It looks like it's just coming in here. So it looks like we've got the glide slope. Jolly good.
2,500.
And now we can bring the range in. Seven miles to run. Glide slope captured. Missed approach set. FMA's check flaps. Speed. Auto thrust is on. Check. Gear goes down. Check 3 greens. We're good. Five miles to run. Last stage of flap. Flaps full, de-ice. Park brake is off. Let's just check. Park brake is off. Decision height. Stable approach. Autopilot's on. Gear down check. Go around set. Landing memo. No blue. last thing to check is the radio height is caught as well, so we can rely on that. Oh, check out the PilotFest logo there as well. Right, 600 feet, 680. Autopilot away at 500 feet.
500.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low,
I've got the
terrain.
aircraft.
Too low, terrain.
300.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
200.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low,
70,
terrain.
60, 45.
Too low, terrain.
Flare.
Retard. 5.
No, we don't want to bounce. And down we go. Reverse thrust. Well, I don't think my reverse thrust switch actually worked. But we're down. This is an achievement. And we can come off. No, don't come off there, it's too fast. Right, flaps up. We need to put auto brakes off. Thrust reverse off. Speed 15 knots on the taxi. Okay. Don't do that. There we go. Pull that round there. Right, now I'm really not sure what terminal I'm going to. So, we're going to go airborne. And basically drive us in just like this. I don't think this is necessarily an accurate kind of a parking exercise. What we will try and do is go to the proper terminal. Right, so we've got some things to do. Flaps are up. It's tricky steering this and doing these things as well. Air brakes down. Flaps up. Auto brakes are off. Taxi nose light is to taxi. Funnily enough. Landing lights are off. So fiddly. So that's the terminal we want over there. And last thing we want down here is where the system is off. Just slow down a little bit here. So we would ask for taxi assistance, but we're not going to do that. Runway turn lights are off. Strobe lights is off. next bit is to clear the transponder. It's a bit messy. And then we go back to auto. Trim is set neutral. APU is on. APU start. And now we need to just pull into what's happening there. We may have to just leave it there. Don't understand. No. That doesn't look right, does it? I think my reverse thrusters have got stuck. There we go. Okay, there. Part brake is on. Right, let's go back to the checklist. Okay, let's check the part brake is actually on. Yep, that's good. Right, so now what we want to do now is landing system off, flight directors is off, instruments are off, or will be. APU is set off. Yeah, so we're missing the bit about shutting down those engines. It's APU off, hydro pumps are off, strobe lights are off, nav logo lights are off, seat belts and no smoking, air compacts are off, APU bleed is off, and avionics are off.